please call the roll.
And just for, please indicate where your location is, because under the Open Meetings Act, you have to say if you're present and you're located in Kalamazoo, Michigan, hopefully, or wherever else you might be. So I will proceed with calling the roll. Ritzma.
Present in Kalamazoo.
Anderson.
Here in the city of Kalamazoo.
Hess.
Here in Kalamazoo.
Urban. Calderon Hueso. Carroll.
Present Portage.
Lonberg.
Present in Oshtemo Township.
Miller.
Here in Kalamazoo.
Charlene Taylor. Alice Taylor. Washington.
Present in Kalamazoo.
Hoffman.
Present, Kalamazoo.
Hopewell. Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
All right, I see Charlene Taylor.
Hi, I'm here.
Okay, so she's present.
Good.
All right. Thank you all, and good to see everyone for today's meeting. First item is approval of minutes. We have the approval of the minutes of September 13, 2021. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support, anyone?
Art Hess.
All right, been moved and supported. Any changes?
I have a couple items. This is Director Carroll. I just noticed that the first sentence of the minutes references September 14th, 2020, and that should be changed to September 13th, 2021. And then on the second page, under the endowment report, the third line, it talks about the with the anticipated increase to the fund due to the $40 million pledge. And I wasn't sure if they were referencing the total $400 million pledge or the first installment of the pledge. So I think that should just be clarified.
Okay.
Because the pledge itself is 400 million, the first payment is 40 million.
Can we get someone to clarify that, please?
I will make those changes in the minutes, and we'll change 40 to 400.
Okay.
So if the motion would be to approve the minutes as clarified.
That's clarified. Okay. Any other changes? Make sure I've got everyone. All right. All those in favor signify by aye.
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 Opposed the same. Very good. Next, we have reports and communications, staff reports. Manager Brown. Right.
I believe that to be the best report we've ever heard. It's fantastic. I approve. Aye. Everything. I approve it all.
Which chipmunk were you, Steve? Elvin? Or you?
Log off, log back in, maybe.
Yeah, want to try calling in, Steve? That's a new one for Zoom meetings for me. So. All right. Well, we need to wait for him.
Is that better?
Yes.
Wonderful. I've never seen so many horrified faces in a Zoom meeting before, so. Okay, well, I am pleased to introduce, once again, many of you know, Director Sean Fletcher from Parks and Recreation Department, if he's still on, as well as Pete Ertz, who is Recreation Manager with Parks and Recreation Department, Chad Went, who is the FFE Youth Development Coordinator at Parks and Rec, and Ashton Anthony, who is Parks Manager, I believe. I apologize if I get your title wrong. And what I'm going to do is share the PowerPoint here from Parks, and they're going to give us a walkthrough of this year's activities. There we go. So you should be seeing the first slide of the PowerPoint. All right, so Parks and Recreation, kick it off and let me know when you'd like to advance the slides. I'll just go over to this first one here.
I think that's Chad.
Yep, can you get that screen back up there for us, please, Steve?
Oh, it's sharing the wrong one. Let's see here. Is that visible?
Yep.
All right, there we go.
You wouldn't mind skipping to the next one for me? Awesome. So the main program I run with FFE is All Things Possible, which is an incoming high school program designed to kind of reduce that summer slide, keep the kids active throughout the summer. And we mix a lot of social emotional learning, college career exposure, and skill and interests into the program. We do that by going to different schools, partnering with different schools around here, Western being a big one. The program is housed at Western Student Recreation Center. And KVCC is a huge partner of ours as well, getting us into some of their departments, such as the picture here is in the culinary program. We also partner with their graphic arts and graphic design programs. We do music through their garage band programs and some Photoshop. So those are some kind of hands-on type of career exposures. And we also bring in as many partners as we can get, try to expand it every year. And we hit everything from culinary to SWAT. It's just all sorts of different exposure pieces that kids would otherwise not have access to. And the whole idea is just to kind of sprinkle in futuristic thinking to kind of get them to hone in on some things that may be interesting to them as a career pathway later on. The kind of big carrot for this program as well is we several years ago spoke with KDPS asking about issues that they were seeing with teens this age group and kids running or getting in trouble because they did not have a driver's license was one of the major issues. So fortunately, we were able to several years ago incentivize the program where if they complete the program, which is a free program, go through All Things Possible and meeting both our Parks and Rec guidelines and the Kalamazoo Promise guidelines. After 9th grade, they will earn paid driver's training, which we have had a whole bunch of kids complete those requirements and have been completed driver's training as well to date. Would you mind the next slide for me, please, Steve? So this is one of the cool partnerships that we had. It's kind of a layered picture here. So the student, that's London, holding on to a turtle. It kind of get cut off on the bottom. But this program was actually through a partnership. Thank you. Actually through a partnership called Third 90. What we do is we partner with different colleges through third 90, they kind of bridge that gap for us. So this particular one, we went to Hope College's campus and we got to talk with a professor there. And we actually got to go with Hope College professor and students and doing a pond study on the gender of turtles based off of the temperature. If they're in the shade or in the sun determines the gender of the turtle. So this was kind of a fun activity. We got to go do some hands-on biology studies with college professors and other students. Over London's right shoulder, you can see the profile of the young lady with the braids. Also a student participant at that time. This year was her first year as one of our staff. So kind of a cool opportunity for her to continue through the program and eventually actually came back to us as a paid staff now. But this is just an example of some of the programs that we have. Like I said, this one came from conversations thanks to Mr. Washington and Mr. Hopewell a couple of years ago, and really kind of helped us get through some of the other colleges. Again, K College was one, Hope College was one, Calvin College is one that we went up to and visited through this program. And it just every year we just continue to advance on it. Next slide, please. Again, some more partnerships we have with Western. The one on the left, we were able to go through and do a stadium tours. The kids were super pumped this year to be able to go onto the field and for whatever reason, do some 40-yard dash races. And the one on the right, going to the School of Aviation with Western. Another really cool opportunity for the kids to go up and sit in the actual cockpit of the plane and kind of push some buttons and play around with some stuff. Just more opportunities that we typically wouldn't have in your typical summer program. And again, I mean, great opportunities, and it's just really the surface of all of the partnerships that we're able to offer with this program. Next slide, please. Pass it off to Pete. You're muted, Pete. You're muted, Pete.
All right, thanks, Chad. So one of the programs that I oversee during the summertime is, besides our Camp Kalamazoo program, is the Super Rec program that we started approximately 5 years ago. The genesis behind it was we do offer scholarships for the Camp Kalamazoo programs, and those programs have weekly registration rates for camp, but we were still encountering families that could not essentially still afford half the cost, even though they did get a scholarship. And Sean had been working on trying to get this program up and running. And the first site we did was Douglas. And then we expanded that to the new Village Apartments and to Oakwood. And now we are currently having 5 of the Super Rec sites in the summer. And those sites are still at Douglas/Lacrone, Rockwell Park, New Village Apartments still, and Oakwood Neighborhood Association area. And this year we moved over to Southside Park from the El Concilio building where we were for a couple of years, because there's been construction over there, and because of COVID, we had to find a new spot, and we were able to use our park, which is nice. And we were able to get some amenities like porta-johns and tents to put up for the summer. So we are housing 5 different sites around the city for ages youth 7 to 12 years old. The reason we started with the 7-year-olds, we did try the 5 and 6-year-old age group for 2 summers, which is what the age group is that we do for our Camp Kalamazoo. But we just found that because of the less structure in that program and lots of field trips going on, that the younger kids just had a little harder time just making it throughout the day. So we've been doing the 7 to 12-year-olds for about 3 or 4 years now. And that's been a real successful age group. That's kind of like the right age group. The kids things are still fun to do, and they just can last throughout that 9 to 5 day. So that's kind of how that's come about. We are really reaching a lot of the kids that were really needing this program throughout the summer. When we first started, pre-COVID, we were doing 40 kids per site. In the last 2 summers, we've had to knock it down to 20 kids per site. And we are exceeding those numbers. For example, at the Southside Park site, we actually had to combine that with the Oakwood neighborhood site because we could not get into that school building. That is now, I think it's the middle school alternative building, but it's the old Oakwood K-3 building. But we were not allowed to use that. So we picked up kids at Oakwood in our vans and brought them over to Southside Park. We ended up having 86 kids registered throughout those 9-week period. We had a different variety. We had like 19, I had some numbers here. We had like 19 white kids, African-American, we had 22. We reached 27 Hispanic youth. And then we had 9 youth that were 2 or more races. We had 7 CITs there, which are teenagers that are helping out at the camp. It's a mentoring program we do. And then in turn, as they get old enough to be hired, and they've done a good job being a CIT, we've kind of got those kids following the steps of camp and then staff, and then we're able to hire them. We do have about 7 or 8 staff currently that have been CITs that either working with us now in our after school program, plus our summer camps. And a couple of them are actually site supervisors now. In the last year or 2, they've kind of raised themselves through the ranks. We had to do the same thing at Rockwell and New Village as well, combine them because the New Village site, they just it wasn't conducive to having all the kids inside the office area at New Village Apartments. And because of the heat and stuff like that, there's not a lot of shade there. So we also transported about 17 to 18 youth consistently over to Rockwell Park to mix in with the Rockwell Park campsite. And over there, we had 71 kids that had registered at one point or time and came to camp throughout that 9-week period. Again, we reached out to about 32 African Americans, 4 Hispanics, multicultural. We had 11 youth there and 4 Hispanic. So we're really reaching a lot of the kids that are looking for something to do this summer, and the parents want their kids to do something, and they can't afford it without the FFE money to be able to run these kind of camps. So we're feeling really good about the spot we're in. And with that money, we're able to do stuff with these kids that they normally wouldn't be able to do, whether it's summertime or during the school year. Field trips we've done before, just to get them a taste of doing something maybe they haven't, like going out to Pretty Lake. Each site got to go once a week for that 9-week period. We took kids to aroma labs. They got to make their own air fresheners or perfume or hand sanitizers. New partner we had was a young lady from Bead Venture out of the Parks Trade Center. And they taught kids how to make beads, bracelets, anklets, necklaces, but she also covered how to do an entrepreneurship out of that, creating their own business. We did stuff with USTA Tennis, First Tee Golf, CAMSI. We partnered with SNAP and did a healthy food program where they met with the kids once a week and they were able to make their own foods, take them home, take the recipe with them. We took them to the Public Media Network where they learned how to make anime videos and they created their own memes, obviously, which was a big hit with the kids. And I could go on. There's probably 10 or 12 other field trips we were able to do. And the great thing about it is just giving them a chance to go to a place that they may not be able to go to, afford that, that admission price somewhere like a bowling alley or the Sky Zone, different things like that we can do for them. And they've got something going every day of the week, whether it's somebody coming on site to do stuff with the kids or they're going on a trip or just something that our staff are able to do. But even though we only having 20 kids on the site, we're reaching them, and then we feel confident that when all this COVID stuff ends and we can get back up to 40 kids, that we'll continue to reach that, because we were hitting that 40 mark before all this hit for a couple summers in a row. So the program has been beneficial too for those kids. Once they reach 12, we're starting to find more of them are becoming CITs, and so it's nice to be able to give those kids something to do when they get that 13, 14, 15-year-old range and they can't go to camp anymore. But now that program has expanded so that they're able to continue to come to that camp, help out, and then kind of get job skills so we can put them on when they turn 17 or 18 years old. I don't have a lot of slides because there was too many of them, and there's tons of pictures from all the places we went. So looks like some of the other programs that we do.
Thanks, Pete. That was a terrific update for Super Rec. For the other programs, Sean, did you want to speak to these, or they can just even be a visual presentation on this? Just
Yeah, I don't have a lot to
context.
add about those. Those are just some additional programs that we offer for kids in the community. Swim for Success is probably one of the most popular. We're excited this year to get back into K College. Most of you probably know they have a new aquatic facility, so we're very excited about that. We offer some youth sports. And then Camp KZoo is a paid summer camp, which some families take advantage of. Couple of those locations in the city, and then we continue to offer after school at the Youth Development Center, and then Station 5. We'll probably go to the next slide. I think, is Ashton here?
I am.
Oh, there he is.
Yep. So kick pool, we weren't able to open last year, so we were excited to get back at it this year. In 2020, we had a brand new liner put in. We had constant issues with the Marsite floor of the pool. So we were able to get that project completed last year when we weren't able to open to the public. So this is the first year. Opened up early June, but we did have some rentals prior to that. We had some staff willing and able to work. So we had a couple swim teams in there to utilize the facility while we were waiting for our full staff to come on board. As you can see, we closed August 15th, so a pretty standard season for us, early June to mid-August. A lot of questions come about of why we closed so early, and it really comes down to staffing. We have a lot of staff that are either high school or college going back to school, and it really starts to dwindle in early August. But we were able to have a successful season. We had a lot of our camps come out fairly frequently, at least a couple times a week. We had early in the year, we started off a little tighter with some of the COVID policies regarding sanitation and one swimmer per lane for lap swim. And then as the summer went on and we started to refine our processes, we were able to open that up a little bit and still do so in a safe manner. So we had a really good year. Our numbers were very high with close more than 14,000 guests coming and going throughout the facility, which as you can see, they're double from 2017. So we're just getting a lot. I think exposure is one of the things. People live in Kalamazoo their whole lives, and some don't even know about kick pool. So I think working with our communications team and then just getting the word out there that kick pool is there and affordable. We have affordable memberships or daily rates for people to come out and enjoy. Swim lessons, we offer those every year. We had 5 sessions, Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday at different times, and those were full. But due to COVID, we just weren't able to open it up as widely as we'd like to. So we're hoping to be able to expand that program again next year so we can get more kids in there learning how to swim. But we really kept that facility busy between aqua fitness, rentals, open swim, lap swim. It was just a great summer, and yeah, we're hoping to just build on that for next year. Since I'm already talking new for 22, we have a few things planned already. Now jumping to the bottom, new programs, esports league with WMU. Pete's already got that going this year. So that's probably 3 weeks already into it. We also have disc golf. We've hosted one clinic and looking to do a couple more in the spring. And then we have a bike rodeo we're gonna do next spring along with Kalamazoo Bike Week. Summer kickoff party for teens at Upjohn Park, utilizing the pool, some water games, and then a movie at the pool, all for the teens. And then back to school event back in September and some poetry workshops leading to a presentation at Bronson Park Lunchtime Live. Chad, I'll let you take this one.
Thank you. Yeah, we're happy. I believe it was February of 2021 this year. We were able to formalize our Youth Action Council. They've dubbed themselves the name Kayak, Kalamazoo Youth Action Council. And what we did is Sean, Ashen, Pete, and myself picked a small chunk of the group. And then we let that group vote on the rest of the members. We've got a pretty good group of different neighborhoods represented. And what they basically do, we meet bi-weekly, and they'll kind of help do some advising on programs. So they help me do some ATP, all things possible planning for this summer, which is super beneficial because I'm asking advice and input from students that are the approximate age of the participants of All Things Possible. So it's really a good opportunity for me to kind of get their mind, their expertise to apply to the program. And yeah, they've kind of voted on their own bylaws, some minor roles that we have, and they've chosen some goals that they want to work towards, and they're going to be doing some community service opportunities and stuff with us, volunteering for this weekend. They'll be helping out with our Safe Halloween event, and then hopefully doing some more little projects that kind of pop up as they vote on those. All you, Sean.
Okay, this one's me. I apologize. I think I know most of you on the call, but Sean Fletcher, Director of Parks and Recreation for the city. And we have been working on a youth and teen facility feasibility study. So we're looking at everything related to a facility like this: location, cost, what type of spaces. Our youth team, which is Ashton, Pete, Chad, and myself, we've done some site visits to some different facilities throughout the state of Michigan, just to kind of see what works, what doesn't work. And we're really looking at, where this type of facility could go, who would use it, when they would use it. We know there's opportunities to serve more youth in our community. We understand that Boys and Girls Club and other facilities exist. We also know that we have a lot of kids in our community that want a place to be. We actually had, in late July, we had a meeting that we opened up to kids that were interested in providing input for a facility such as this. And we had about 55 youth and some parents that attended that meeting and gave us some great feedback on what types of spaces, what types of things they wanted to do at a facility like this. And we showed them some different teen centers throughout the country and really got some great responses from kids and some parents. So that study, we'll wrap that up probably by the end of the year, and then would probably look to present that information back to City Commission probably right after the first of the year. I think I might have the next slide too. We've been running parallel to the youth and teen feasibility study. The youth team and I have been working on a youth master plan, really looking for that plan to be a 10-year plan for youth and everything that we do, and everything from collaborating, different programs, activities, and events for youth and teens in our community, looking at the transportation and what that might look like, what kids want. The next step, one of the next steps with that plan would be getting some input and feedback from our Youth Action Council. We really want this plan to have, to really have them tell us what we need to be working on. And we have a really, like Chad said, we really have a great group of young people there that aren't afraid to tell us what they think. And we want to know what they want from our youth and teen team. We continue, as Chad and Pete and Ashton have mentioned, we really continue to expand the programs and activities and events for youth and teens. We really feel like this is some of the most important work that we do in the city. And we're doing whatever we can within the dollars that we're giving and pushing the envelope as much as we can We didn't have some things budgeted for this year, but they were great opportunities to partner and get kids some really cool experiences. And we figure it out. We work closely with KidNet. We've recently decided in cooperation with them to do a survey that we'll send out to households with kids living in the city. We want input from parents on what types of programs, what types of activities, events, would they be interested in a youth and teen facility? Would they need transportation to get there? So really want to get a lot of input from our community, our Youth Action Council, and include that in this plan that will really shape our work for the next at least 10 years. And then part of that would also include some budgeting and staffing plan. So some work to be done yet on that. We look to wrap that up probably by the spring. It'll take a little time to develop the survey and get that out to households and get that input back and include that as part of the youth master plan.
Thank you, Parks and Rec. I'll pause here for a moment and I'll stop the screen share since we'd be moving on to Paige Daniels from My City YOU. If there's any questions for Parks staff about any of these programs or the context.
Yeah, just interested. Thank you for the report, you guys. So familiar with a lot of the things that were mentioned here today, and it's just exciting to see it continue on. Can you tell us a little bit about the struggles, if there were any, that you experienced just because of COVID and having to deal with the summer? I know the schools are up against quite a few challenges now, but what are things that you may have learned going into next summer? Hopefully we don't have these same challenges.
Well, I guess the challenge that we really had is when we run our camps like we normally do, we have 5 Super Rec sites, as I mentioned, and 2 Camp KZoo sites. So that's 7 staff or 7 sites needing really 6 staff, which is a supervisor and 5 other staff, as well as then we bring on 2 van drivers to help get our kids on some of these trips. So we don't always have to use a bus and pay for our buses. But some trips just require the bus, but we technically really need about 52 people when we run our 7 sites. And I think we did it with 30. So a lot of that had to do with, quite honestly, people not needing to work because they were going to make more sitting at home than they would, even though we raised our scale up to $12 an hour for a rec aide and 14 for the supervisors. We were still short about 25 staff or so. That was another reason why we kind of combined sites, because one site only had 3 staff, another site had 3 staff. So it made sense to combine that to get enough staff to have 20 to 25 kids on a site. We learned that that's an extremely challenging way to do it. We also learned that it's possible, but part of that challenge came too because the sites we were normally at wouldn't let us be in those sites. So we moved to like in particular an outdoor site at Southside. Well, then that challenge arose was because of state licensing, you need to have a certain number of bathrooms per number of kids. So 20 kids on the site, you need to have at least 2 bathrooms for boys, 2 bathrooms with girls. So we combined sites, so that made it 40 technically. So we had to get 4 bathrooms for girls, 4 bathrooms for boys. And because it was outside, the picnic shelter area at Southside is decent size, but not nearly big enough to have 40 kids and 6 staff and 7 CITs under it. So we had to rent some 20 by 40 tents from Canopium, plus 2 storage pods. I forgot that. So fortunately, there was a urgent relief fund that we were notified about by Carrie Lynn that was able to help with that kind of thing. But coming out of that, it helped us realize for some of these outdoor sites, we could really use storage pods to be able to put our equipment and supplies in so that we can then make better use of the facility, the picnic shelters that's there, the ones at LaCrone, the one at Rockwell. We can, instead of putting our stuff in there, we could actually have that available for actual activities and put our stuff in storage pods. So those kind of costs coming along. if that urgent relief fund isn't there because it's not needed, how are we gonna, run that camp in a way that it will make it run the best, spacing wise, storage wise, and having to make sure we meet requirements of state licensing. So that was our biggest challenge. And our second biggest challenge, and thanks to the FFE money, we were able to kind of accomplish defeating that, was being able to take these kids to places that they normally wouldn't go to, giving them something to look forward to, knowing they were going to the pool every week, knowing they were going to Pretty Lake, and we could provide the transportation. We had the money to get buses if we needed them. And so those were the two biggest obstacles that, from my perspective and how our camps run, that we were faced with, and then trying to figure out ways to overcome those. So
Yeah, for all things possible, it was kind of some of the similar stuff. Staffing was a bit of a struggle. Fortunately, kind of double-edged sword. Unfortunately, Western, we had to kind of reduce our enrollment because of COVID guidelines. But the kind of silver lining there was that because we had to reduce enrollment, the staffing issue wasn't so much of an issue as we originally thought it was. Something else that we were able to do was one of our former participants had reached out and wanted to help in some capacity. She's now a junior in East Central. So we were able to get her on she wasn't old enough to work as a staff for the city. However, we were able to bring her on as a CIT, and she did great. And that just kind of helped alleviate when we were a little bit short staffed. She could run and do some of the little extra things that didn't require us losing a staff for supervising certain areas and getting certain tasks done. So definitely able to help us out there. And because of the Western being on Western's campus, we wanted to make sure that we were respectful of their COVID guidelines. So the amount of kids that we were able to serve each day, like I said, that enrollment went down, or that number went down. What we did to kind of combat that was offered 2 different sessions to try to serve more youth throughout the city. So we did a Monday, Wednesday, and a Tuesday, Thursday session, and then we would bring the groups together on Fridays for some field trips.
Thanks, guys. Chad and Pete, I really appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that you're very flexible, as everybody has to be over the last couple of years. You really got to be able to, duck and dodge and try to put programs together for students. And I appreciate you answering the question, because I'm always interested in, and I think everyone on the screen is, making sure that the appropriate amount of resources are available to make sure that we can accomplish these things, so that we can move on a dime and make things happen. And I know that wages are always going to be a consideration moving forward. And so I'm sure that that'll be something that'll be discussed as we go into next year, what it's going to be like to be able to have the talent necessary to be able to work with the students. So appreciate the report. Thank you.
Seeing no other hands up, I will give the floor over to Paige Daniels from My City YOU with KRESA, Kalamazoo Regional Education Services. And Paige, this is the PDF annual report, so all your links are live as they should be. I'll scroll down to the other spread and just tell me when to advance it as you need it, or any other support you need. But welcome, thanks for showing up.
Thanks, Steve, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm happy to be here. Steve, actually, am I able to share my screen or not? 'Cause I have the videos up already. If not, I can make it work from the links.
I will go, I think, give it a try. As a participant, you probably should just be able to click the green share button.
I think I can.
Super.
Do you see that? Should be on the kind of purple on one side, white on the other.
Yep.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm happy to be here just to kind of give the broad overview of our My City Summer Youth Employment Program from this past summer. So as many of you all know, typically this program would be very much all about hands-on on the work site, oftentimes young people's first job, but that true work experience. And due to COVID, for the past couple summers, we've really had to pivot and figure out how to continue to meet those needs from the career development and exploration perspective while remaining primarily virtual. So this past summer, we did remain primarily virtual, primarily because we would typically have young people placed out in over 50 sites. And in order to just make sure that we were able to have safety, top of mind and logistics related to COVID, we chose to continue with a primarily virtual model for this past year. We were able to learn from what we had done the previous summer and maintain that focus on, okay, our goal with these work experiences, whether they're in person or virtual, is really to make sure we're helping young people see what's possible, see what their options are, and start to understand the steps that are available to them to take to meet their long-term career goals. And so with that in mind, what you're seeing here, I'm just going to walk through a handful of highlights on our final report to paint a picture of some of the things that young people were able to engage with this summer. So on the left, you're seeing some demographics. We were able to serve 148 participants this past summer through our My City Kalamazoo programming. And on the right starts to be an overview of the different pathways within the program. So we have Career 101, which is focused on the 14 and 15-year-olds. And within the virtual model, what that meant is these young people were paired with a career coach in small groups, and they were able to engage in a variety of career exploration experiences through a platform called Virtual Job Shadow. They focused in their groups with their career coach on employability skills, social emotional learning, and a lot on goal setting. So again, seeing what's possible, but then understanding the steps that you need to take to make that happen, both this summer and beyond. Career 2.0 is that next phase. That's for the 16 to 21-year-olds. And with the virtual model, typically those young people would be placed at a worksite doing a more traditional internship. For the virtual model, we chose to replicate what a work experience could look like in terms of the team building, collaboration, and leadership that's often necessary in any position. And so what these young people were able to do, they were in groups and were tasked with a project and walked through kind of what a typical work cycle would be if you're trying to address a problem at your place of employment. And so they were asked to determine, their workplace norms, their group norms, and go through team building and, again, additional career exploration and employability skills training, but then pairing that with a project that they tackled within their group. And in doing so, I want to just show you a couple things. So for example, this skills inventory, they utilized Jamboard within their group. So this is just an example of how they were able to be interactive with their career coach through the online platform. And so this was just a brainstorm of a skills inventory related to 4 different areas: academics, personal, social, professional, and their COVID experience. Just kind of identifying areas of skills in order to help them become a team, work as a team, and identify their group norms. Then they went on to actually identify an advocacy project to go through that cycle of a work team. And so just to show you a snippet of the presentation on transportation, is my screen changing? Are you now seeing why we should care about reliable transportation? Okay, awesome. We'll see if you can hear. I just wanted to give you a snippet of hearing directly from them related to how they were framing this project as it relates to career growth.
Whenever we present a problem, we always need to ask ourselves why this is significant and why we should care about it. And so the reason why we should care about reliable transportation is because it influences our career, our education, and even how we get around in life and the essential things that we need.
Just wanted to give you that snippet as how they were kind of framing these projects around how they relate to people's abilities to be successful in their job and to move forward in their careers. This next bit is really just focusing on some participant highlights, which I'll share with you in a moment to wrap us up, and the virtual job shadow platform that we utilized for some of that career exploration work. So within that platform, there were over 500 occupations highlighted with the ability to engage through videos as well as research around what the educational requirements are at different levels, what the salary looks like, and what the demand looks like both locally, statewide, and nationally. Before we hear directly from a couple student highlights that I want to share, there were two other kind of pathways. I'd mentioned Career 101 and Career 2.0. We also have Career Now, which is for the 18 to 21-year-olds who are ready to engage in short-term training experiences. So for this pathway of the program, we did rely on the training providers that we partner with, and their kind of COVID policies. So many of these did have in-person components that were tied directly to those short-term certifications that young people can earn to be ready to step into the career. So you're seeing here highlighted a few of those short-term trainings that we were able to connect young people with. We were also able to partner through the Bridging Opportunities program to provide the career development experience for 12 young men. This is a partnership with Public Safety as well as Boys and Girls Club, Prevention Works, and Community Healing Centers. So really coming together to provide wraparound services for those 12 young men this summer as they engage in exploration as well as a bit of the world of work. Oh, I'm seeing a raised hand. Barbara. I think
I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry.
You're
I was just planning ahead, raising my hand.
Okay.
I was mainly gonna ask, they used to give a high school credit. Do they still do that?
So what we do, yes, we recommend for those who complete the program effectively throughout the summer, we recommend a half of an elective credit. So those are sent directly to the school counselors in the fall for the young people who are recommended for that half of a credit. Yep,
thank you.
Great question. All right, the last piece is I just want to show you two quick snippets of some participant spotlights so you can hear directly from the young people some of their highlights from the summer. So this is Grace.
I have learned a lot about, public speaking. I have actually become a lot better at it because of this program. It's because I've been one of the main sole presenters for my breakout groups. Whenever we have breakout groups, I am usually the one of the people who presents. So it's helped me a lot with public speaking. I'm a lot more comfortable doing it. I'm not as nervous anymore, which is great. I've also learned that I need to prepare for interviews. I need to, think about what I'm going to say. I learned that I can search up interview questions that I can write down the possible answers for it. And I also learned that I need to work on eye contact and, making sure that the person you're talking to knows that you're listening to them. That's really important because they need to know you're present, they need to know you're there, and yeah. I want to become an architect, which is, something that I haven't really always been thinking about. It's actually, I just chose it when I came into my city too. But I realized that I really like, building design. It's really interesting to me. I don't know, I've gone in that one architecture tour in Chicago. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's beautiful there. The buildings that they have are just the designs are beautiful. And I really love I don't know, just how the way buildings look. So I feel like architecture could be something that I would really enjoy.
So that just gives you a sense of what Grace kind of took away from the program and some of those highlights. And the last one is just a short 25-second from another participant, Maya.
I like all of the employability skills. Those meetings are really helpful. I also like the project meetings, like getting to like collaborate with others, like going towards a goal.
All right, so I just wanted you to hear directly from them. For me, they really highlighted what we chose to focus on when we pivoted during COVID, and that's those skills that are always going to be transferable into whatever job you step into, and also just helping to get young people excited about what's possible. I probably already took up too much time, so I'm going to stop. I could talk about this all day, but I appreciate having the opportunity to share. And does anybody else have any questions?
Paige, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Wonderful. So those are project presentations today for the youth development area. And of course, we'll have continuing presentations each year throughout the year. One update, Director Lonberg reached out last week to follow up on a question that was still alive from our last meeting when we received housing update and economic development update from our community planning and economic development department. And the question was specifically, how many formerly unhoused individuals have been served with housing and because of the activity of the city? And it's a dynamic number that's changing because we're constantly working in these areas. But two numbers to highlight and lift up here. One is through the Lantern House, which is a program that has had, I believe, 12 graduates so far and is currently serving then 11 new ones. I may have those numbers switched actually, but that's, if you will, a ongoing program. So as the 12 find housing, 11 more will find housing, and then the capacity you will be kind of stay in that area or at that level. And then the lodge, which if you've driven lately down West Edge, it's the former Knights Inn, just before that hill south on West Edge. And that's 60 units. Those will have an occupancy of 2 per unit. And that could be any combination of 2. So it could be a couple, a married couple, an adult and a dependent child and parent. So that would be up to 120 individuals in that. It's expected, I believe, to be completed mid-year next year. And I don't have a complete ribbon cutting date on that yet. I don't know that they do either, but so that's a kind of just a brief snip of the activities. And big shout out is definitely merited to Integrated Services of Kalamazoo. They're running this, and all the partners that went into the lodge. As you know, as you can imagine, it's a capital project, very expensive, very big lift for our community. And then ISK also running Lantern House and Lift Foundation doing the lodge with I think a big assist from Lockhart Management that's really on that day-to-day. So there's probably more information. I'll open the mic without any requirement to speak, of course, but if DCM Lamb had anything to add, or even Director Hoffman or Mayor Anderson in that housing space, just to make sure we have a complete kind of answer to that. But
thank you, Steve. David Anderson here. I'll just see one additional thing. So there are many folks who are housed with resources that are not directly from the city. So those numbers just represent a very small percentage of all the housing that occurs in Kalamazoo. For example, the city may assist or help leverage, but a lot of dollars come from HUD, come from MISTA, come other sources, philanthropy, of course. And so you will see, for example, how far you want to take this out. The city of Kalamazoo participated a great deal both in the Creamery and Harrison Circle, 2 very large permanent housing projects that were just recently developed. And how does the city contribute there? The city contributes there by allowing those properties to not pay ad valorem property taxes, to pay much less to the city, even though they still receive all the same services, streets, fire, public safety, all that sort of thing. So that is another way that the the city directly contributes is by not, by granting a reduction in what otherwise, a regular developer would pay.
Laura Lamb, Deputy City Manager. I knew if I took a breath that Mayor Anderson would start talking and do it far better justice than I could. What I will just respond is I love when this group asks questions because you're asking questions both that you have and both that you're hearing. So to the extent that the questions, we need to go farther with more information, I really welcome you to pose those questions, get them to me. I'll work with the team because as we assemble information to answer your questions, it really helps with us communicating to the public at large. So please keep the questions coming.
Hello, everybody. It's Stephanie. Excuse me, Director Stephanie. I got to get used to that. I also wanted to just add in a few more numbers in relationship to the hotel intervention project we did earlier this year. And so we served over 100 people there as a hotel, including children, and over 30 of those individuals or households moved into housing. We would not have been able to get that hotel intervention done if it weren't for the FFE and the city. So I wanted to put that out there. So, there are small numbers, but we're every time, every opportunity, those numbers are going down. And so I just wanted to put that out there that those families too, over 30 moved into permanent housing.
Thank you.
I want to thank you all for your answers. And, the root of my question was in our last meeting, we were talking about housing and measuring it by units. And I think it's just really important to measure it in humans as well. So thank you for your efforts and for your wisdom.
Thank
Question?
you. Director Hess.
Director Hess here. I have seen lately that we still need funding for the lodge project. And I know that's open to the public to be able to give those dollars, but I wonder if anybody on the call has any idea where the rest of those dollars are going to come from to finish that project. We don't know yet, Director Anderson. Okay. But anyway, it's out there to be able to give privately as well.
Okay.
Okay. Director Ritzema, I can return to the agenda.
Yes.
As a share. But actually, excuse me, in the interim, I need to return to the PowerPoint. We do have a follow-up. It's the third installment of the Story Ambassador Workshop with CCS. And as guests today, we have once again Eleanor Houston, and joining us as well is Will Cernanak. Correct me if I've said your last name wrong, Will, I apologize. But is everyone seeing the PowerPoint up on screen?
Yes.
Okay, and so we have just about 10 minutes for this, and then we've got 3 items on the regular agenda that we'll move on to following that. So Eleanor, I'm going to advance to the next slide here.
Great, thanks, Steve. And thank you everyone for inviting us in to join you once again. I will call this Inspiration Intermission, noting that you're about halfway through the formal agenda today, and that the purpose of our call is building on this sense of ambassadorship for the FE board, centering on this idea of storytelling. And so we'll be revisiting some of the material we covered previously in our February and our April sessions, noting that a good deal of time has passed since we initially presented this storytelling framework and hosted some practice time for the board to develop your own FFE stories. And in those ensuing months, we've had several opportunities, 4 opportunities, I think, to be specific, for FFE board members to get out and meet with the public, with neighbors, with residents at Lunchtime Live, the Expungement Clinic, the Northside Carnival, and a few others. So we're really eager to build on those experiences, offer some time for folks to either develop, practice, or troubleshoot their FFE story, and really get back to the core of why we're all here, which is the amazing impact and benefit of FFE within the community. So let's go ahead and move on to, yes, this next slide. So the storytelling framework that we all know. And again, this will be familiar to those of you who've joined the previous sessions, but we have here the Pixar framework. The DNA of all Pixar stories, what makes them so successful as films, and what makes them so compelling and resonant for all of us who watch them, is this series of 6 questions, 6 prompts, once upon a time, every day, until one day, because of that, and until finally. And Steve, we can go on to the next slide. We've applied this framework to one FFE beneficiary. This is a very young business owner in the Edison neighborhood who has launched her own popsicle business through FFE funded small business support. And this framework just charts her journey to launching her business, turning a dream into reality, and that this would not have been possible without FFE being there as the support structure and funder behind the small business support. So really honing in on one specific resident beneficiary of FFE's work to demonstrate a broader theme of what's possible thanks to FFE's support. So this is one option among many for your FFE story. It could alternatively be, here's what inspired me to join the FFE board. Here's the area that I am really interested in exploring. Here's where I see the greatest need for impact within our community. And then asking the person on the receiving end, whether it's a family member, a neighbor, a colleague, asking them, what are some things that you would like to see within our community? What are some areas that you've seen FFE support? What makes you love living in Kalamazoo? What do you think is excellent about our community? So making it more of a dynamic conversation and finding ways to connect from there. So let's go to the next slide. And I'm going through this very quickly, but we're going to take 3 minutes. It'll feel like a long time, but it isn't actually. To either, and it's a bit of a choose your own adventure, if you'd like to spend 3 minutes working on your FFE story using the framework we discussed, that's fantastic. If you've been trying this out and you find yourself stumbling upon certain portions of your story or receiving resistance from the people you're talking to, or if you yourself are having a hard time testing this out for the first time, take a few moments, respond to some of the questions here that we have prompted, or again, spend a moment crafting your own FFE story. And I'll say I'm feeling very inspired by the 2 presentations we just heard from Parks and Youth Development. So if there are specific beneficiaries or programs that you would like to speak to inspired by the previous 2 presentations, that would be fantastic. But of course, if there's another area that you are personally intrigued by or invested in, we can hear about that as well. So 3 minutes at 3:08, we'll check back in and we will hear what you all have come up with. Right. I see some people are still writing and thinking, but I'm curious if we have a volunteer to share something that you wrote down in that time. All right, I'm going to pick on someone. Director Hoffman, do you have something written down you'd like to share?
I actually do. So I chose question number 2. And what I'm finding now that people know that I'm on the board, I get a lot of calls or I'm out and people ask and they need assistance with housing, with repairs. And like I got the checkbook already with me. And so it's hard to explain not hard, but I have to explain that there's a process and the FFE supports a lot of local organizations that will help. And I can point you in the right direction. But I don't have a checkbook right with me today. And the other thing is, when people, they want to ask me who are the benefactors, who donated the money. And so, I have to explain that I'm not privy to that, and how relevant or important is it to you for real? Like, we have an opportunity within our community to really, really receive and do some wonderful things. Let's be grateful and just be blessed by it. So those 2 things, I have to always find my words to convey how important it is for us to have this kind of a board and this kind of financial support. And there are ways that will help you and your family and our community as a whole.
Thanks so much for sharing. I think those are 2 very important questions. We're starting to see a bit of a theme in those areas. So thank you for sharing that. Who else would like to share with the group? We'll take just a couple minutes. Director Longberg. Yes.
Yeah, this is similar to what Director Freeman shared, but I've gotten a lot of variations that are basically the FFE has more money than anyone can ever imagine. Why is there any problem still in Kalamazoo? Like, how come there's still a crack in my sidewalk? How come there's still someone who's homeless on my street corner? How come, everything isn't perfect yet, forever?
Very helpful. Thank you.
I can give a little commentary. So because it's so distinct and unique, people just still don't understand it. And you can't go to another city and say, well, look what they're doing over there. There's really nothing to compare it to. So people just have a hard time wrapping their head around just the entire concept of it. And then in relation to taxes, how it then has some kind of impact on the homeowner in Kalamazoo. So you still kind of get that. So there's some confusion. It seems, as I have been here with a few others on the screen from the beginning, it seems a little easier. It seems a little more like people aren't so wrapped up in it as far as some of the detailed questions, and they're just like, okay, just make it keep happening type of deal. So some of that gets a little easier. It's not as difficult as it was a couple years ago.
I have one too. I was able to attend the expungement clinic, I believe in September, in Bronson Park. And we had FFE tables set up, and the Attorney General, Nessel, came by, and I got to explain the Foundation for Excellence to her. One thing that made me realize is the importance of having like an elevator speech about it to describe it, and because it's a lot to describe otherwise.
Some muscle memory always helps when it's new or complicated content for someone. Director Hess, yes.
Yeah, Jean Hess. True, I agree with City Manager Ritzma on that one. And Rachel, absolutely. Director Lundberg, people want to know that because we have all this money, why aren't things perfect. One of the things that I see is, I was helping people try and put a neighborhood plan together for my neighborhood, and they don't understand like why or where that's coming from. So I think communication about this and our elevator speeches and the fact that we do them early and often and all the time for folks is important. I wrote down here that it's like telling people there's a gift under the Christmas tree for them and it's theirs. They have to open it, but the community has to be involved here. The community has to open that gift. And I think at its finest, the gift is meant to bring this community together. So again, just like all the other directors, I feel that we're really grateful and blessed, and I keep putting that message out there as well.
Any final thoughts? Anyone who hasn't spoken?
Hi, this is
Yes.
Director Taylor.
Oh, I see you raised your hand. Perfect. Thank you.
Hi, I just want to say one of the interesting things to me is I know we advertise the Foundation for Excellence a certain way, but it appears that in the eyes of the community, there's a disconnect between the fact that the city and the Foundation for Excellence is basically one working together. And they are observed as being two. The Board of Excellence is over here and the city is over here, and people are not seeing that it's a joint effort.
Really helpful as we think about our continued communications push, and also on empowering this group of ambassadors with the best speaking notes and preparation to go out into the community and share what exactly FFE is, what it is doing, and how they can be involved in the cycle of impact. It's really helpful. Thank you.
Eleanor, did you get the slides back up? I'm sorry.
You know, Steve, I think in the interest of time, and I'll just invite folks to take a look at the deck if they're interested afterwards. But I think in the interest of time, maybe we wrap it up here if there's maybe one or two more comments before we close and transition to the last portion of the agenda. Okay. Before we do so, I just wanted to call out, I have a CCS colleague on the line who you'll be seeing more from over the coming months, Will Cernanek, joining us today, and I'll just let him say a brief hello, and then we'll let you get to the budget portion of the call.
Yeah, great to meet everyone. Happy to join the call. As Eleanor and Steve said, my name is Will Cernanek. I'm excited to join this project for a number of reasons. One of them actually being that in my life before CCS, I did some projects in collaboration with the city of South Bend, and I had a colleague there who was a big fan of Imagine Kalamazoo 2025. So I hadn't had prior knowledge of FFE per se, but was aware of some of the things going on in Kalamazoo. So it was just kind of an extra bonus point when I was able to join this project and work with Eleanor and Lindsay. So great to meet everyone and look forward to working with you further.
Well, thank you both. And with that, feel free to log off and we will step onto the regular agenda. So
all right.
Share the screen again. Director Ritzma.
Yes, so item D1 is approval of the 2022 city FFE budget.
So the recommendation is on the screen, and it's recommended that the board approves the 2022 city FFE budget of $26,200,747, with $4,370,908 for budget stabilization, $13,872,339 for tax reduction, and $957,500 for aspirational projects as outlined in the budget detail. And what I'll do is scroll down to the transmittal memo, which is what is ultimately included in the city's own budget booklet, which is then put up for approval in January by City Commission. So same format as last year, and with just minor adjustments for the tax calculation that came in from the mid-year estimate. This is what was presented at the September meeting of the Board of Directors. What we've also keep scrolling here, what we include each year are descriptions. So based on the bylaws, the calculation for budget stabilization and tax reduction, and then relatively brief outlines with some historical numbers as well for the major projects in each category. As you can imagine, each one of these projects, especially those with history now, have quite a bit of information on them that we put in the annual newsletter and things. And then new this year, it's going to look pretty small on your screen, is the line item for projects proposed. So I'll zoom in on this just briefly here. There's a lot of different ways that the city kind of has to code its activities to understand them as part of a strategic goal, to understand them as part of a program. So you'll see on the left here, a primary goal. And so for example, shared prosperity, the division would be community planning, economic development. And then you would see on the far right, affordable housing. So it says transmittal. So that's where they're grouped in that transmittal memo, just as a way of offering, I guess you'd call it a key or a legend to understanding the budget. You can see the BDF, Business Development Fund. Those are sort of grouped together under economic development. So this is a line item that allows you to then see the actual areas. And these are really, this is the granular level of, what we track for outputs and outcomes as well. And how we really specifically kind of roll up our sleeves to do the FFE funded work at the city each year. So again, the bottom line here is totaled out. And so with that, if anyone has questions, otherwise, I believe we just need a motion, and then there could be comments by directors, and then a motion in a second, and then a vote.
Any questions for Manager Brown? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the 2022 FFE budget as presented?
So moved.
Moved Hess, supported Hoffman.
Support.
All right, it's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Hey, Steve, can you remind us right now we're under the grant portion of FFE funding that I believe runs through next year. And then after that, will be transitioned over to the endowment. Can you explain a little more about that and what that means for FFE board action next year or whenever it takes place?
Absolutely. It's a great time to lift that up. So we've been building what people kind of have called muscle memory. It's a brand new organization with really unprecedented impact on the city, importance to the general fund budget. And it's just an organization that really has been stood up from scratch since your involvement all began in 2018, or the involvement of many of you as directors. And so there's all the pieces that have gone into building this out. Each year we go through the process that is the final process, and we'll continue to do it this way really foreseeably into the future. So when it comes for us to shift over to receiving dollars that are earnings on the endowment principal, on this sort of level of approving, we're all, as it were, now experts on this. We can improve the process, but it'll be very familiar. It'll be just like this. The difference, of course, will be that the dollars will be coming from the earning investment on the endowment, which is the property of the nonprofit known as Foundation for Excellence. So that sort of, we've gotten it up to speed. The gears will mesh. We'll transition over to the endowment, and if all goes according to plan, there's really nothing sort of to notice on this end because we've been building that muscle memory for the actual budget process. We have the Foundation for Excellence Investment Subcommittee up and running. Those are the quarterly meetings, which are public, just like these are. They're subject to Open Meetings Act, and at this current moment, still Zoom broadcast. So as things transition, hopefully after COVID and go back to in-person, they'll return to being the publicly accessible physical meetings that they once were. And then the foundation's own finance subcommittee is the same, with the treasurer and the finance committee members meeting anywhere between 4 and 6 times a year to review those earnings reports and projections from the investment subcommittee. So we're really up to speed and moving. And so 2022, which is what's represented in this budget for approval, will be the last year that is, as Director Ritzma said, from those kind of seed start grant dollars. And then we'll transition with 23 to the endowment. So it's a really exciting time. We'll have a lot of stuff going on just on the administrative end next year to make sure that it's, you know, the smoothest transition it can be, and we're looking forward to it. So
thank you. Any other questions or discussion on the budget? All right, seeing none, does this require a roll call vote?
No.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the 2022 FFE budget signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, the same? All right, thank you. Next item is the approval of 2022 board and committee meeting schedule.
this can be a very brief item. Following the successful cadence this year, and granted, this will probably transition at some point from Zoom to in real life. We can cross that bridge when we get there. But the proposed schedule is really day for day what it was this year. It worked very well. The times are the same. So this would just be up for approval, and then we'll post it according to Open Meetings Act in City Hall and make it available in the document library online.
All right. Any questions? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the 2022 schedule for the FFE boards and committees?
So moved.
Support.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, the same. Next is the annual director placement.
So little background here is this is a familiar process we are confronted with each fall, and the requested motion is to just direct staff to prepare the following reappointments and appointments. So we have for reappointments already confirmed interest in remaining from all three directors, Calderon, Hueso, Hoffman, and Lonberg. Thank you very much, directors. I will also add that as we know, Director Hoffman is running for elected city commission. So if your bid for city commission is successful, Director Hoffman, at that point, we could then just explore if it was commission's appointment to you, if you wanted to become a city commission director on the board, since you want to continue serving and your service is very much appreciated. And also Director Urban, City Commissioner Urban is stepping off. So there could be a natural transition there. I just wanted to air that. It's a new situation for us, but it could be relatively straightforward. So we can cross those bridges after the election results are in November. And then appointments, we have 3 vacancies. One is the city director, which is at large. So that'll be an application that we put out. And then that person is chosen from those applications by city commission. And then 2 stakeholders. So healthcare, which was formerly Dr. Graham Williams, and business, which was formerly Adam McFarland. So those 2, the stakeholder positions, go through the process with the governance facilitation at Kalamazoo Community Foundation. And we'll bring those as slates back during the April meeting next year, as we have in previous years. So currently a few vacancies, but otherwise in good shape. So direct staff to go ahead and move ahead with this process. And then we can offer updates as needed by email or at the February work session if there are any.
All right, do we have a motion to direct staff as explained?
So move.
Support.
All right, it's been moved and supported. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, the same? All right, that concludes our regular agenda. Next, our public comments. Do we have any public comments this afternoon?
No public comments at this time.
All right, thank you. Board member comments. Anyone from the board wish to comment? All right. Well, thank you very much for your time and good work this afternoon, and look forward to a lot of exciting work ahead. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you, directors.
Thank you, everyone.